Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk about something or basically what's been going on with me lately. Um, I kind of don't really know how to explain it, but I guess I'll start off with a background of myself. There's a little history. So, as a child, I grew up in a religious background, Christian, and I was always kind of like a spacey kind of kid where I was always kind of like daydreaming in school. The teacher would call on me and be like, uh, yeah, just to see if I'm paying attention, and then come to find out I wasn't, kind of like making a little mockery out of me in front of the students. And yeah, I was pretty spacey like that. I was kind of weird. But one thing that was true about me though is that I was always kind of like a knowledge seeker. So I think for Christmas, on one of my Christmases as a kid, instead of asking for regular toys, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other people could probably relate to this as well. But I was asking for like telescopes and microscopes because I wanted to look at the stars. I wanted to look at organisms on a microscopic level. I think I was like 6 years old or 7. So I've kind of like always been a little weird. Um, and I don't mean, and to be honest, that might not be weird, but at that time, with all of my peers, I kind of felt weird. They made me feel like I was like an oddball or weirdo or whatever. And as far as like the types of toys I would ask for, I always kind of was the type of person that kind of didn't really see gender, because you know how they say, okay, these toys are for boys, these toys are for girls, this is what girls do, this is what boys do. And I never kind of like got that. I just did what I felt like doing. So I would have Legos, video games, and things like that all at the same time as having Barbies and Bratz dolls and things like that. But anyways, apart from that, as a kid, I did experience a lot of paranormal activities. I won't really go too much into that, but then it was just a lot of spiritual things that surrounded me, and also too, my whole entire family are Christian, so I was kind of raised in that Christian background. So I was taught to believe that anything spiritually outside of the Bible and Christianity is considered demonic, and it can potentially open you up to demonic possession, demonic attack, and all of those types of things. So I kind of stayed within my, sorry for all the noise in the background. The 4th of July just passed, so people are still kind of like blowing fireworks and stuff. But anyways, yeah, so I had a lot of fear growing up, fear of just everything. And I never really quite fit even in school, even sometimes, even within my family sometimes. But of course, within a family, I felt a little bit more at home than, at school, because I just didn't really fit in. Nobody really wanted to hang with me for some reason. They didn't really want to be bothered with me. I was kind of like the butt of all jokes half the time. So that was kind of like what my childhood was about. So, growing up though, into my high school years, teenage years, I did kind of get a little rebellious. I just kind of had this mentality like, whatever, if people don't like me, I don't like them, fuck the world. They hate me, I hate them type of world, or a type of mentality. So, even though I was still kind of like dedicated to my religion as well, like, I didn't want to have sex before marriage and all that stuff. I was kind of just like in this little rigid way of thinking. And, as far as my spiritual awakening, I want to say that my first stage of waking up was when I was 19. And it happened where I was at this hair salon, and somebody was like, somebody at the hair salon mentioned something about Jay-Z and Beyonce worshiping the devil. And of course, I was like a little skeptical about that because I love Beyonce. That was, that's my girl. So, at that time. So it intrigued me enough to want to look into it. I didn't just run with it like, oh my God, there was just there. I actually went and did my own research. And despite whether they do or don't, I was still intrigued by everything that I was learning. So I was like, I was running into all types of documentaries that talked about like conspiracy theories, and it talked about all types of stuff. And I just really found it interesting because normally when things spark my interest, I kind of like to just research it and research it and research it. So I would spend like days kind of just watching documentary, reading books, and I just felt like my mind expanded. And I kind of felt like that was a spiritual awakening, but that was literally nothing compared to what I went through earlier this year. See, I just thought that a spiritual awakening is when you just kind of like get put on to the matrix system, and you kind of realize you're kind of like in this matrix and everything is controlled, and you kind of like come to that realization. And that's kind of what I thought a spiritual awakening was, but I was completely wrong, okay? But I'll get into that later, okay? So after that, once I got into my 20s, I kind of like was going through different things, just trying to finish college, trying to find my way, trying to figure out what I want to do. And I ended up becoming a CNA because I kind of just wanted to get into nursing because, I always had this thing where I wanted to help people, but I also wanted to use nursing as a stepping stone for other passions as well. So being a CNA really exposed me to a lot, like just what goes on in the medical field, and just kind of like, I became a little bit less selfish and more selfless. And I kind of was I kind of got used to putting other people's needs before mine. And then I guess that's kind of when, I developed such a disciplined mind, because the stuff that you see in the medical field, you have to kind of have a strong stomach for that. So I kind of feel like I've built my, my strength there, I guess I should say, to be able to handle things. And not only that too, but I was also going through hardships in life too, like financial hardships with like people, relationships. So I kind of went into this little depressed state that kind of like halted my spiritual awakening a little bit. And I had been kind of like depressed because I wasn't really happy with where I was in life. I wasn't really happy with who I was and where I was going, and I just kind of felt a little lost. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, this can't be life. I was just so miserable every day. I was like, this can't be what life is. This just can't be life. And that was just kind of like my mindset. So yeah, so I was like in a really low vibrational dark place during like majority of my 20s, I should say. I did try to make the best of it by traveling and doing other things, but ultimately there was always just this inner thing, like, of just felt just sadness, depression, and things like that. And I never quite found my place either, because even as a kid, like I said, I never quite felt like I fit in anywhere. I just was going along with the flow of life. I was actually kind of rejected by most of my peers, so I also carried that pain as well. And I never developed the skill to learn how to make friends. So even now, like, I still don't have any friends. I don't know how to maintain friendships. Like, I have people I can talk to, people I can hang with, to go to parties, but there's no real like connection. I don't really have people that I can go to be like, talk to or cry on their shoulder or anything like that. I always had to be that person for myself throughout my whole entire life, really. As far as like family and home, of course, my family loves me. They do care about me, but there was a lot of brokenness in that as well, but I won't really get into that. Anyways, going a little along, because I don't want to keep this I don't want to keep this prolonged. But when I was, I want to say 27 or 28, because I'm 30 now actually. I might not people always say I look like I'm 16, but I don't know, I guess that's a compliment. But anyways, when I was 28, I was working at a place, and I guess at that time I was still in that dark place, in that low vibrational place that I was in. And I was just trying to finish school, and I think I did finish school, but I couldn't get a job in my field. I was applying every day for like a whole year after I graduated, and that was also depressing me as well, because I'm like, I don't want to be one of those people who go to college and can't even get a job in my field, and that type of thing. So hold on one second, let me go close the door because it's like loud noise. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Give me a second. Okay, I'm back. So as I was saying, it might have gotten a little dark though. Okay, sorry. I just needed to. It was like really loud. It was getting pretty loud. I think somebody's mowing their lawn or something. Anyways, so when I turned 28, I met a guy at a job that I worked at. We ended up working at the same place, and we had a situation, but it wasn't like a relationship, and it didn't work out because I think at that time he wanted something more, and I just wasn't able to give him that, especially with what I was going through with previous relationships, where one of them was really, really verbally abusive, with like threatening to kill me and things like that. And then right after I finally escaped that relationship, I shortly after entered another relationship where it wasn't like, he wasn't like a verbally abusive or anything. It was just more so just insecure. So he had control issues, which had to control everything I do, monitor everything I do. Like, he would notice when somebody added me on Facebook or deleted me, like monitoring the numbers on my friends list and things like that. But I won't go into too much of that. I just know 2 back-to-back relationships where I felt confined and where I wasn't free to just be myself. And then when I finally got out of those relationships, I just kind of wanted to just find myself and be a little free. So when we met, I kind of felt like I was falling into the same pattern again, and it was going to enter into another relationship like that again. So I was trying to stop it from happening, but at the same time, I did notice something really, really unique and different about our relationship. It's just that at the time I was too much in fear and just all these other different emotions, depression because of where I was in life, can't get a job, and I just wanted to just get myself together. And and it just felt like things were just moving way too fast for my comfort at the time. So I kind of just started to I kind of like backed off a little bit because things were a bit too intense. And we kind of like went our own way. And he would tell me that he felt like the relationship was a bit spiritual, and that he felt some type of magnetic pull or magnetic attraction that he didn't really feel with, I guess, other people probably. And I heard what he was saying, but it wasn't really registering really. I mean, I felt some of what he was feeling, but it wasn't like, I really wasn't, it was a disconnect. I wasn't really understanding 100% what he was saying. So I kind of like ran away from the connection. And at the time, I did know about like twin flames, and I did know about soulmates and things like that, but I didn't really quite understand fully what they were. Like, I just figured that, okay, a twin flame is just a deeper level of a soulmate, I just never bothered to really look into too much about it. I just figured the surface level stuff that I knew about it was all that I needed to know. And I guess I just kind of felt like whatever that was, maybe I'll find it, maybe I won't, or I don't know really what I thought. I just figured, okay, it's not that I didn't believe in it. I believe they exist, but I guess I kind of just, the same way I felt with the spiritual awakening, I kind of just thought a spiritual awakening is just waking up to the world around you and the matrix, but it's way more than that. And the same thing goes with the soulmates and the twin flames. I just knew surface level stuff, and I was just okay with knowing surface level things. So anyways, going into 2020, because I was 28 in 2018, so in 2019 we kind of like, was when we kind of had like our situation. And then when we kind of separated too in 2019, and I kind of just moved on, lived my own life, and I guess he moved on too, and at least from my perspective anyway. And 2020 was really hard for me, but not on a financial level. It was more so on a emotional and it was more so emotional. Like, I was okay financially because hospitals stayed open, and I always was in the medical field, and I had a job. I was considered essential, so I had to work still. So money was okay for me, but it's just every other avenue of my life ended up kind of getting a little worse. I was going through so much physically, emotionally, mentally, everything. So then, I told myself when 2021, hit, that I was just going to make this year be a way better year than 2020 was for me. And once the beginning of 2021 hit, I started going through something again. I was like, here we go again. Like, I just can't have a break where it's like a year where everything is just okay. And so, that's when the guy that I met at work that I was just telling you guys about, he just randomly started coming to mind a lot. Like, a lot. First, it was just small, and it was little things. Okay, whatever, I could brush that off. Because normally when I randomly think about somebody, I usually just send a prayer out to them. Because I figure maybe they're coming to mind for a reason. Maybe they just need some prayer, or they need to get sent some type of love, or happiness, or energy, or something like that. Or I just did that. But then the fact that, he kept coming to mind and over and over and over and over again. And then it started becoming an obsessive thing where I just, honestly, I thought he was doing something. So I was like, okay, what is going on? And it was something I had never felt before, never experienced before. It was like a pain that I was feeling, like, right in this area. And it wasn't my heart. Because, like, people be like, oh, well, go get your heart checked and things like that. I mean, I did go to the doctor just to be sure. But I know the difference between, like, a physical pain and the type of pain that I was feeling. It was more so on a spiritual level. It was a spiritual pain I was feeling. And it was, like, right here. And I'm guessing it was, like, the heart chakra area, right? So I was just wondering, what is this pain that I keep feeling? But I know it was associated with the guy that I was mentioning that I worked with. Because he would always come to mind every time the pain happened. Sometimes the pain would just be intense all day long, just intense. Or sometimes it would hit me in like a really intense fashion, and then it'll stop. And then I would be like, okay, cool. Breathe, and then boom, it hit me again. I was like, okay. Then sometimes it would be not as intense. It would be just like a nudging feeling, kind of like a nudging. And then it would just go on all day with no breaks. So then finally, some days were okay and other days weren't. So other days it was like, okay, I finally get the break. It's like whatever was going on, it gave me a break. And I was like, okay. And I would just sleep because it would be so intense. Like, I couldn't focus on work. I couldn't focus on my relationship because I was in a current relationship. And I just couldn't focus on anything because that kept happening. So I just kind of was Googling what this was, what was going on. Well, honestly, before that, I was thinking he was doing something. So I figured, let me go ahead and contact him because it would be my first time really contacting him in a long time, I guess, since we kind of like separated. And so when I talked to him, he didn't really seem like he was doing anything because he seemed kind of like, lost. But he did say that it could have just been that, I may have been sensing his feelings because he did still care about me after all this time. So he said it was unconditional love. So I just was like, okay. And then he is like, I think married now with like a family and stuff. So it was just like, okay, so why would he be doing this to me on purpose if he has his own life, So I figured talking to him would give me some type of like idea of what was happening. But it wasn't, it didn't, I just figured all I needed to do was just talk to him to see what's going on. It still hadn't clicked to me what was happening or what this was or what was going on. I just thought I was going through something again, just the usual life struggles. And so after we talked, it didn't help. And it actually got worse. So I was just like, oh my goodness. And I think one day the heart chakra pain got so intense that I just asked God, because I was praying the whole time. Because like I said, I'm Christian, I still have that Christian. But it was all confusing me too because like I said, Christianity teaches you that everything outside of Christianity is fake, demonic, false, and whatever. So the fact that this stuff was happening, because that's after I talked to him, that's when I started Googling things. And everything was leading me back to Twinflame, 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 Twinflame this. And I started learning all the different stages of the Twinflame journey. And the stages kind of, the separation stage, runner, chaser, and all that, that I resonated with because it kind of fit perfectly what happened. When we met, we had like some spark that happened that triggered us. And it wasn't working out when we first met, and then we kind of split and separated. One person runs away, and I guess I was the runner, and in this situation I was. And so it was this runner chaser thing I started learning about. And so I'm thinking, okay, so maybe all this time he was on Twinflame and I didn't know. So that's what I learned. And then I started learning the purpose of a Twinflame, because everybody has this misconception that your Twinflame is somebody who you are meant, and you are meant to be with them, but the purpose of it is for you to spiritually awaken and find who you truly are, your soul's path, mission, and everything on this planet. A lot of people think they are in Twinflame relationships, and they're really not. They are soulmate relationships. Soulmates are easier than Twinflame relationships, because in order to be with your Twinflame, you got to do a lot of soul work, apparently. So I learned all of that stuff. And I kind of figured, like, oh, so I kind of fucked up, because all this time he was like Twinflame, and, I didn't know. So, anyways, once that pain got really, really intense, I kind of asked and prayed, and I was just like, I asked, God to reveal to me what was going on right now. And as the pain was happening, I started having a vision of the guy that's on Twinflame with his hand right here in my heart chakra area, and it was like he was pulling. So it seems like he was pulling off a blockage on my heart chakra. And honestly, I already knew that I had a heart chakra blockage, because growing up, it was a really, really kind of rough environment where showing emotion and being loving and all of that stuff was like, it would just kind of get you hurt. People take it for granted, take advantage of it. Once they see that you are loving and open and giving, they kind of just, that's what they use to hurt you. So I learned to close and be defensive, because that was just, my heart was in survival mode. It wasn't free to just express and be open and just be my true authentic self. I always had to hide it, close it. And because if I showed it, people would think I was weird anyway. So I just kind of stayed to myself. And so, I already knew about that. And to be honest, all this started happening right when I was making a decision to get closer to God. So I was reading the Bible more. This is in the beginning of the year. I was reading the Bible more, and then I would go on these little prayer walks and pray. Right after that, I ended up having a spiritual awakening of what was going on with me. And then I started praying during that whole pain thing, and I wasn't really getting any answers until I asked to show me what was going on with this pain. And then that's when I seen that. So when I started learning about twin flames, spiritual awakenings, chakras, I started learning more about that, even though once again I knew about the chakra systems, but I didn't know in depth about it. I just do surface level stuff. And all of that was contrary to what the Bible says. So I was in a state of confusion, because I'm like, okay, I know this is real because this is all happening to me, but yet it's nowhere documented in the Bible. So then I started to pray about, because I know the worldly view of God is that he's like a tyrant, and that's the worldly view. And then the Bible even portrays him that way too, especially in the Old Testament. He's some type of tyrant that just kills, smites, and and so I started praying, and I said, I want to get to know God for myself. I want to know who form a relationship with God. That was kind of what I was praying about in my prayer walks. And once I prayed that, and once I didn't pray it out loud, I prayed to myself in my head and my mind or whatever, because that's just my way of confirming whether something is God and whether it isn't. Because I know that the way I see it is that God knows our thoughts, so other they don't know our thoughts, so other beings don't know our thoughts. So if I pray in my mind, then I know that it's God listening. So I would always pray in my mind as I pray and walk and meditated. I do meditative walks. I go walking and I meditate while I walk. Anyways, so once that happened, everything I thought I knew about the Bible and my religion started crumbling down. It's just as if God was just showing me the Bible's flaws and how it's been changed over the years, and how, you know, he can't really get through to Christians anymore, because once the Bible was completed and religious leaders came to use that as a source of religion, and religion is used for a source of fear and control. So a lot of Christians are stuck in this, what they call a baby milk stage, where they're never evolving past that spiritual growth that was intended. Because I know, like, when when Jesus came down, because Christianity, they believe in Jesus, but when he came down, he showed us what we're supposed to be doing, but when no Christian is actually really doing that, like healing, casting out demons, all of that stuff that he said to do, and I think it was in the book of Mark. And so I felt it was a reason for that, and I feel like it's because a lot of Christians are stuck in this fear, and the higher ups use fear. When I say the higher ups, I mean the people in charge of the world, basically, like the leaders of the world, that type of thing, that are in charge of the different countries or whatever, whoever's in charge, okay? They like to use fear to control the masses. So, or in religion, there's a lot of fear. Like, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. If you don't accept it, you're going to hell. This, and that. And I just kind of felt that's really contrary to a God that is loving unconditionally. So, and all this fear. And so I started to see the truth of the religion I was in. And I kind of went through this ego death, because once my heart chakra blockage was removed, it's like I instantly went into this like ego death, dark night of the soul situation, where I was just kind of like in a spiritual depression, and everything I thought I knew became like a lie. Like the truth was being revealed to me, like right in front of my eyes every single day. I was being introduced to something else, learning more. And I was stuck I was scared, because it was all contrary to what I learned in my religion growing up. And I kind of felt like, what if I'm under demonic attack? What if all this like things is happening? Because I was getting even introduced to like things like tarot, crystals, and the things that the Bible condemns. But I was kind of like in this state of fear, because I was like, I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know why this is happening to me, So I lost my identity, and then it kind of felt like I was stuck in this place of my old self dying away, but my new self not yet being born yet. So I was in this little limbo state of like, who am I? What am I? How did I get here? Type of thing. And it was kind of like I was forced a red pill. Like they just shoved a red pill down my throat. It was against my will. Like I didn't get to choose. But not that I wouldn't choose the red pill. I would choose that. But in this case, I just kind of felt like it was like, here. You know what I mean? So I kind of feel like a lot of people are going through spiritual awakenings right now, because I feel like there's massive changes happening in the world today to where people just need to be awake. And I feel like this is God doing that, because like I said, I pray in my mind and I ask God to show me if this is him, to give me a sign. And I'll even think of something specific, and that specific thing would happen. Like I say, okay, because I had to rely on that. And being in this limbo state where I don't know what's real and what's true or not anymore or whatever, I kind of had to rely on that. So I was just like, if this is you, show me like something really weird, like a purple car or something. And then I think I was right after I said that, I was leaving my little prayer walk, coming home. I turned the corner and I seen a purple car. And it wasn't like an actual like car vehicle. It was like a little girl riding on one of those like cars, those little. But the thing is that it was purple. Like some people might say it was a coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidence. Literally right after I said that, and you don't see that often, at least not around here. People driving a little girls driving Barbie cars. I don't really see that often. And I wasn't looking for it either, because I just kind of was like, okay, show me that. And I seen it. I was like, oh my goodness. So it's just little things. That's not the only thing, but it would just be little things that I would ask God to show me, to let me know that I'm on the right path. And so every single time, and I would do something really, really specific, and at least within the day, I would see it. And so I would also hear my intuition a lot better, and I always been intuitive. So I would always have situations where I'd be like, I would do something, I'd be like, oh shoot, I knew I shouldn't have did that, or dang, something told me not to do this and I still did it anyway, like that type of thing. But I would have those moments often. So I was kind of like learning to follow my intuition, hear my intuition a lot more. I didn't really have a choice because of the state that I was in. I was kind of just like, okay. And all of this stuff was really scary. I was in a scary, scary spot, and I was being pulled towards certain things, and I kind of like, I don't know, like, and I think it was for my own soul's growth. But the things I was being pulled to are things that I had always feared due to my religion. So I was still kind of just scared. And so what I kind of feel like is going on too is that, like I said, something big is probably about to happen. That's why so many people are going through spiritual awakenings at this time. And also too, I feel like with Christians, I feel like they are no longer listening because they are too busy getting fed whatever their preachers are telling them or whatever somebody told them. And also too, I think God was trying to show me that the Bible was compromised, that it's changed to fit a narrative that is made to keep you in a state of control, in a state of fear. And so I feel like Christians aren't really listening anymore. And I feel like also too that God is going to people who are willing to listen. And right now, the people who are willing to reach up high and actually listen and pay attention are the people that are going through spiritual awakenings, people who are naturally inclined to spirituality, and people who probably do tarot, or people who channel, people who do things. They're open and they actually hear and they're listening. So I feel like God can get through to them. So they have special missions. Like, I feel like I have a mission that I'm supposed to be doing, and right now I'm still in my spiritual awakening process, where I'm trying to learn what my gifts are, learn what my soul's purpose is, learn what it is that God wants me to be doing in this world, or what it is that I was here or brought here to do. And I know it's for a reason, because that's the reason why I'm going through all of this. And I basically got to a point where I just kind of surrendered to the path. So it's kind of like, I just said, you know what, whatever is going on, I put this in, I put it in the higher power's hands. I put it in God's hands. The Most High, I put it in up there, and just whatever. And I just have to hope that where I'm going is going to be for my better good. But I do see positivity. I don't really see anything wrong. I do know that I'm supposed to be doing something that's regarding to service to others. So it could be like healing and helping people go along their spiritual path. And also too, all of the things that I've been through as a child, all the way up until this point, I'm pretty sure I could help people going through the same thing. So I'm just trying to figure out what it is, and I'm trying to learn to hear, my intuition, connect with whoever God has put into my life is supposed to be my guide or whatever, and just try to figure out all of this craziness. But I just decided to make a video about this because I kept being called to do that. And I also took notes just so I wouldn't forget. So I know, like, now I've been doing a lot of shadow work too, because once I went into the dark night of the soul, it's different from a mental depression. It was more so of a spiritual depression. Like, I don't really know how to explain that, but I just know it wasn't mental depression, because I know what mental depression is, because I went through that a lot in my 20s. This was a whole different type of depression that I was going through after my spiritual awakening. So sorry, I just want to make sure I cover everything. And so lately I've been feeling called to integrate my higher self into my 3D self. So I need to find out who I am, go within to discover myself, and also to my shadow side, my ego side as well. Sorry, I thought it would stop recording. Anyways, to integrate my shadow self as well, to go within and self-love, heal trauma, past traumas, and I'm even starting to believe in like past lives as well, because I feel like a loving God would give everyone more than one chance to do it. And the way that Christianity presents things, they make it seem like God created everyone to send them to hell by default unless they hopefully find Jesus, and and hopefully they're born in a situation where they can find Jesus. And we know a lot of people are not born in that, because some people are born atheists, some people are born to misfit parents, you know, and so some people just don't have that good head start. So I just didn't feel like God was an unfair being like that. You know, it just contrary to what I feel. Because like I said, I went on my own journey to discover God myself. And I just don't feel like a loving God would just, you know, throw his people in hell, create them with that sole purpose, and hopefully they find Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just doesn't sound right to me. And I just feel like there's a lot of misunderstandings too. Like, people just, Christianity is quick to call something demonic instead of investigating it. I don't think the Bible was intended to just end there and then everyone just kind of stuck in that thing. I feel like it was supposed to forever evolve with the times, that God is still ministering to people. He's still reaching out to people, still awakening people, still trying to get people to see. And it wasn't supposed to stop right there, is what I'm trying to say. I think it was just supposed to keep going. And so, at least that's what I'm getting, and that's what I'm learning, and my little, trying to just make sense of everything. But I'm still in a process. So I'm just learning to just trust the path. I'm getting to know my shadow side. And as you do the self-care, your triggers, whatever triggers you, those things will stop happening, because you're dealing with it and you're healing it, and you're healing the trauma on the inside, whatever you went through in the past, and even past life traumas that you may have had that carry over. Because I do feel like, even though I had this intense fear, I do know in this life it's from our religion, but I also kind of felt it was even deeper, even deeply more rooted than that. And I wasn't talking to a friend. I tuned into a friend's live stream that I don't normally tune into. He's one of the people in the spiritual awakening community. He spiritually awoken way before I did. And, you know, so I tuned in, and there was something that he mentioned in the stream that kind of resonated with me, that kind of answered a question that I have been always like wondering about, like, what if my fear is even more deeply rooted than I think. And then he said some people in past lives have been through a trauma with reptilian or basically there was past trauma dealing with, I probably tried to be spiritual in another lifetime, and it caused me a lot of trauma, and then that's what's still there that needs to be healed. You know, it's more into it, but, you know, that's like another thing to explain that would take forever to explain. So I just kind of keep it surface levels, because I don't want this video to be too long, even though it probably already is. But anyways, yeah, so I just decided to, when I did the shadow work, and I'm still doing shadow work, I'm still integrating my higher, I'm still learning who I am, I'm still in this transition process, I'm still trying to figure out where I want to go. I know that I'm going to probably keep updates on this channel. Right now the name of this channel is Musical Synergy, but I might change it. I'm not sure to what yet, but for now it'll just stay that. I know I'm exploring my talents and how I can use my talents to be of service to other people. So I know I'm into music. I know how to read music. I know how to make music. So maybe something with music I can do. And then too, I always wanted to be the hands-on healer type. You know, like how Jesus was doing. But then I keep getting pushed towards Reiki. The problem with that though is that I'm still battling the fear, because I don't really know exactly what Reiki is, and I'm kind of like afraid to step into it, because that, like I said, I still have those fears, and I'm still healing through it. Basically, I'm trusting the past, so I'm not going to jump into that quite yet. I'm just going to continue focusing on my healing and focusing on myself, and like I said, wherever I feel led to, I felt led to make this video. So I had been putting it off for so long, and I'm just finally saying, okay, this is it. I'm going to go ahead, speak my truth, speak what happened to me. And if anybody's out there listening, and maybe this can help somebody, you know, so so I'm learning who God truly is outside of the Bible and outside of this worldly view of him as some type of tyrant. And I just feel like what's going on is like a call to humanity to stand up and to rise into their truth, to go within, heal their past life traumas, heal their this life traumas, do shadow work, go within, and just discover your truth, stand in your truth, because the world is it's getting crazy, and I just feel like people just need to be ready to be able to handle what's happening or what may happen. And so I do know and I do believe that that I am on the right path. I don't think, because I think that what I'm going through right now has to be divinely guided, because I just can't see, all of this going on in the midst of me getting, more in tune. Because this all happened when I started to decide to get my stuff together and get good into my religion again. And so all of that crumbled down, and I'm just trying to figure out what it is. And I'm learning, I'm just walking the path and going through it on myself. I think that's what everybody has to go through. It is scary. And now I know that a spiritual awakening is actually a thing that happens, to where you actually awaken, then you have an ego death, and you forget who you are. Everything around you start seeing the lies and the truth, and then it's kind of scary. And then now you got to go through shadow work, and you got to go through all this stuff. So it's like, I didn't know it was that. I just thought I had one already when I was 19. But that was just a starting point. And so, yeah. That's pretty much my story. Yeah, I'm still, like I said, I'm still learning. I will keep updates on this channel. I won't make videos this long. But, we'll see. I'm definitely going to just start doing things, and whatever sticks, because I'm still discovering what it is I'm supposed to be doing and what God wants me to be doing and that type of thing. So, I have been learning how to use tarot, but I also haven't let tarot take the place of my intuition, because that can't happen. I always check in with God and myself, and as well as everything else, and I just use tarot to confirm or to give more insight of something that I may not have been paying attention to. But it's always good, especially if you decide doing that, to not let it take over your intuition to where you are dependent on them and relying on them as well. And I don't see tarot as something that's demonic or evil like I used to. I feel like what it is, like a knife, where a knife isn't a weapon unless it just depends on who's using it. It could be for food, cooking, being of service to people, but depending on whose hands it is and who's holding it, it could also be a weapon. So that's kind of how I see it. A lot of people just demonize everything, but if you explore it and actually learn it, it's really not as bad. But like I said, just trust the path. And that's just kind of what I don't really have a choice, really, because I kind of got thrusted into this, like, wake up. So I realized that my twin flame triggered my spiritual awakening, and yeah. So I'm just trying to see where everything fits in my life right now. Anyways, whoever listened to the end, thank you for listening. I hope it helped, and if you relate to the story, then let me know in the comments. Bye.